Hello and welcome to another lesson in our data entry development in MS Excel VBA. To all our subscribers, we say welcome home. To the new subscribers, we say thank you so much for the subscription. Please press the bell icon so that I get notified so I don't miss these videos because it's going to be interesting, straightforward, and fun. Like I said, I'll provide all the links, the codes in the video description below, so you can just check the link and then download all the codes and then use them in your programs. Perfect. So let's quickly delve right into that. We've already created the form and then started with a lot of processes. So when you just click on enable here, so when you just go to developer tab and then we come to visual basic, just come to data entry. When you run this now, so you can see that our form, everything is taking effect. We can add a picture from here and do everything, but we can add, save, search, delete, and do. So in this video we're going to work on these controls, and that is that. So now let's delve right into that. So now to start with, let's start with the save or add save button. Like we have the code from here, so I'll share that in the video description below for you. So let's locate the add save codes. So it ends here, so select up to call CMD reset. But before we do that, I've just noticed something. Let's work on the reset and close. So let's start with the close. So with the close, double click on it. So inside here, if you want to close a form in VBA, you just have one line of code says unload me. Unload me, meaning close me. That is that. So let's go back, double click this. Now let's come to reset. So with the reset, we're going to use two lines of codes. So we go first of all going to close the form and then reopen it again. So with that, it will reset the form. So we say unload me. Then we call the form name. The form name is FRM data entry. So we say what? FRM data entry, FRM data entry dot show. After closing me, re-show me again. Just close and reopen me again. So let's see how that works. So when you click on this, it closes the form. Let's run this again and enter something here and something here, something here. When you click on reset, it will close and open and clear everything. So we've just covered these two. So straightforward, let's go with the search, delete, update and add. So that is that. Let's move ahead. Now let's quickly come here and copy the save, add and save codes here. So it ends here, add save, so you can see up to here. Let's copy that up to here. So Control C to copy, and quickly let's come here, double click to open this, and then Control V to paste. Now let's pass a comment at the top here and just call it add save. There we go. Now let's see what is happening here, so that if you want to expand your user form and take a lot of data, you know how to manipulate that. Perfect. First of all, we just declare a variable here. We say dim ws as worksheet. We're talking about the worksheet we are using here. That is a data sheet here. Now we want to set it now after declaring your set, so that we know the type of worksheet you are talking about. The set ws equal to this workbook.worksheet. We have a lot of worksheets. We might have a lot of worksheets in the workbook, but we are talking of a particular one where the data is going to be stored, and the name of that of our sheet is called data, D-A-T-A. So sometimes you just give some name here. When you refer to a different name inside the code, it throws an error. So what I usually do is double click on this, Control C to copy that name, and when you go to the code, you just paste it inside. So we are talking of the data sheet. So before we insert a new data inside of the data sheet, we need to check something to avoid duplicate. It says what? Check if staff ID already exists. So now this line of code is going to check for the staff ID for us. Okay. So with this line of code, to speed up the video, once I explain this line of code, I wouldn't talk about it again. We'll be seeing it as we move along, so you shouldn't complain because I'll explain it here for you to understand, right? Perfect. So it says what? If worksheet function dot count if ws, that is the worksheet, dot range e through to e. Let's see e through to e. The e through to e is the staff ID column, because we're going to use the staff ID to define each and every member in the database. The staff ID must be unique, so we need to check to avoid duplicates. So we are checking that particular column, E through to E. E through to E, that is text box 5, because the text box 5 holds the staff ID dot value if it's greater than 0. If it is greater than 0, meaning that there is already an existing ID in that particular column. And when that happens, we would want to receive a message. So we have message box says what? Staff ID already exists. Please click generate ID to choose another staff ID. VB exclamation. Exit SAP. So that is that. Let's try something there for us to see. Let's go to the worksheet here and then let's type 0001. Okay, this changes to, okay, let's make it 1111122 as a staff ID. Now let's run our form. Let's run our form to see something here. Okay, so let's click on this and then add 1122. I don't know if that is that. Okay, sorry, 112, right? So we assume that this is the ID we just generated. So now we want to save it. When you click on save, see this what happened. This is what staff ID already exists. Please click on generate. Because we already have the same thing here, we can't generate another one. So that is that. Let's reset. So I believe you understand how that particular line of code works now. Let's go back. So once we check that, now we need to get the next empty row in the worksheet where we can pour or store our data. So to check for the next, what do we mean by checking the next empty row? Right now, if I have data here, one, and then another data here, another data here, and then I come to enter new data, the codes must check to make sure that I don't replace the one I'm bringing with the already existing one. What I need to do is to check the next empty row and then pour my data in there. So if this data is already this row is already captured with data, I have to look for the next empty row, and that is what we are talking about. So let me clear this content here. So for now, the next empty row is going to be here because the first row is the headings. Okay, so that is that. Take note of that. So to do that, we deem empty row as long. The empty row we're going to be defined, we're going to be checking as long. So we set that empty row to be equal to WS, that is our worksheet, dot cells, the cells WS dot count 1, that is the first column, dot N Excel app. So we want to check through the first column and then to confirm that there is an empty row. So once we are able to get an empty row from there, then what we need to do is that we write the values on that empty row. So this is how the values are written. The values are written to be what? WS, meaning anytime you see WS, it means worksheet, because we said what? Set WS equal to this worksheet data. On the data sheet, the WS, that is the worksheet, dot cells empty row 1, that is the first empty row, dot value should be equal to what? Text box 1 dot value. Now let me show you what we are talking about. Where is the empty row? So we assume that the first one row here is the empty row. So we are saying that this is the first column, the first empty row here. The value of which should be coming from the text box 1. And when you look at the text box 1, the text box 1 holds the ID. So let's go back to the code again. So we come to the second one, ws.cells empty row 2. The next empty row, the value of it should come from what? Text box 2.value. So when you go back to the text box 2, that is the name, and then the next empty row after the ID is the name. So when the ID is stored here, the next empty row should come from text box 2. So the gender is also coming from what? The combo box 1, because that one is a combo box. Let me show you that. You can see ws.cells empty row 3, that is the third row where we have the gender, should be coming from combo box 1. And when you look at that, when you select this, you can see that the third one is what? Combo box 1. So the value of this should be stored inside the third empty row on that particular row. Then the fourth one go for the date of birth, fifth one go for the staff ID, sixth one go for this, in that order. So that is what you are seeing here. This one goes to the first text box 1, and then the second one goes to text box 2 in that order. The way the text boxes are arranged is the same thing. So right now, if you have extra text boxes here, if you decide to add another text box here to be 9, 10, 11, then you would want to copy these codes here. You would want to add additional, let's say you've added additional 2 text boxes, so you need to copy these 2 lines here and then paste them and edit them to be what? 9 and 10, because you can see you have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. The one you're going to add at the bottom is going to be 9. If you add another one, it's going to be 10. And then check the text box number. Is it text box 9 or text box 10? And then you make sure you rectify that as well from here, and then it will be able to cater for the text boxes you've just added. Okay, so that is how that is done. So once we're able to determine the empty row, we pour all this data on that particular row. So once we are done, the next thing we're going to do is to say on error resume next, meaning after that, if there is an error, forget about that error and move to the next line of action. What is the next line of action? The next line of action is to what? To store our picture using the staff ID of the teachers. Okay, so to do that, we declare another variable called z. Say dim z as string, and then the z should be coming from the value or the text inside the text box 5, and then text box 5 is already our staff ID text box. Don't forget of that. So once we are able to get that, so we now know the value of z. Now the value of z will be coming from text box 5, that is the staff ID. So we want to create a copy of the file, that is the image file, from the folder, copy it and send it to the folder called teachers data, and then inside the subfolder called photos, and then concatenate it with the name, that is the z, and then the z holds what? The staff ID. So the name of the picture is going to be the staff ID of the teacher. Okay, and then you concatenate it to the extension of the image, that is .jpg. That is why when we're saving the images we're going to be using inside the VB project is going to be the JPG type of pictures. So once that happens, we say what? Message box, data submitted successfully. And then we would want to call CMD reset. What do we mean by calling CMD reset? We already have a button called reset. And what that button does is that it closes and opens the form and clear everything inside the form. So what we want to do is that once we are done pouring the data in the row and save the picture in the required folders, we would want to call the CMD reset. So this is the reset button here. Let's see if I can get it here. There is it. And then once we call it, we don't have to go and say unload me, show this again. We just call this and then it will execute this line here, and then it will have the form close and open and then clear everything inside the form. Let's run it and see what I'm talking about here. Let's run it now. So now the first thing, we have the first one. So let's say the name is John Doe, and then the gender is male, and the date of birth is maybe 10 blah blah. Then we generate our staff ID from here, and the registered number we just enter some random numbers. Then the email jd123@home.com, and the phone number we enter some random phone numbers. So once we are done, we click on save. You can see that we have our data saved successfully on the various columns. So perfectly executed. You can see that without any problem, without any stress. So basically that is that. So now I didn't even add the picture. Sorry about that. So when we get to search, then we can then update. Okay, let me just delete this and then add the picture. Sorry, let me just clear this content. So let's rerun it again. Perfect. So John Doe again. John Doe, then the gender, and the date of birth, and then generate this, and then registered number, give it random one. Email, then jd123@home.com, and the phone number should be here. Then we browse for the picture. I should have the .jpg file type of pictures, right? Materials, perfect. Database, passport images, and let me just grab this picture for him. So there we go. So once I click on save, perfect. So now if we should go back to our C drive, we should see teachers data, and then inside here we have the photo stored with the staff ID SID07 blah blah blah. So you can confirm that. You can see the staff ID 07 is 704, the same thing here, .jpg as you saw in the code. So basically that is that about the add save button. Now let's go for the search button, the search. So let's come to our codes and grab the search codes. So we copy from here up to NF and then end it here. So let's double click to open the search button here, and then paste the codes inside. So now let's pass a comment here so that we know what this is all about. Sorry. Search. There we go. So this one too, you already know what is happening here, so I don't want to talk about it. We just declare variable and set it to the worksheet we're talking about. That is the data worksheet, where the data is going to be stored in. And here we are checking the last row without date. That is the next empty row. So the next thing we are going to check here is that we would want to do some comparison. So we dimension another variable I, then so that we use the I to loop through the entire row and do comparison. Okay, so what we are doing here is that we say dim I as string, and then for I equal to 2, we want to start checking from, we say I equal to 2 because we're starting from the second row here, because the first row takes the headings. So if this and this takes the heading, then I should start looping from 3, so don't forget of that. So we start looping from 2. We say I equal to 2 to the last row. We want to dim ID, the ID that is stored inside of our database as string, and then the ID should be coming from, so the ID equal to should be coming from the worksheet cells I5, that is the 5th column, that is the staff ID dot value. The I5 is the staff ID. Okay, on that particular row, the I stands for the row, then the 5, the row number, that is 5, the value of it, that is staff ID. So now that we know where the ID is and then the row of it, so now we need to check if in string. So this particular in string function is used to check for string in a particular string, and starting from the first position, that is 1. So the string in which we are checking is the ID type of string, and then starting from the first ID. So what we are doing is that we want to compare the staff ID inside that particular row, okay, and compare to what text box 9.value. Where is the text box 9.value? The text box 9.value is the search bar. So to search, we will have to enter the staff ID here. And what is going to happen is that it's going to compare the staff ID you've entered here with this one, and this one is in the 5th column. Let's go back, search. It's going to compare this one to the 5th column. If there is match, meaning that particular ID exists, so you return that data for that particular row. If there is match in that ID, so you return that. So supposing your search box is not text box 9 by 10, you just change this to 10, and then you should be good to go. If your ID that you want to use to compare is not the staff ID, but rather the student ID, so you determine the column. Is it in column 1, column 2? Then you determine that from here. It is column 2, then I2, and in that order. So that is that. So once there is match, then what we are going to do is that we want to return whatever we have in the worksheet back to the user form. That is what we mean by searching. So whatever we have in the cell I1, the first cell in the first row, should be returned to the text box 1. Whatever we have in the second row should be returned in text box 2. Whatever we have in the combo box should be returned in the combo box 1. Whatever we have in the text box 4, that is the 4th row, should be returned to what? Text box 4. So this defines the various sheets. After the equal sign, the right side here defines the various sheet, and this defines the various text boxes. So let's see what I'm talking about. So the staff ID is what? Let's enter it here. SID 078 704. So let's click on search. So you can see that we are able to return the various details from the worksheet back to the form. That is what we've just done. So basically that is that. Let's close this and then we move forward. So now that with that, let's check the last thing. If the record is not actually found, so with that it will return everything, and then it will load the image from the folder in which we store the image. That is what the teacher's data inside the subfolder called photos, and then it will return the image and set the image to just fit the image control. So that is that over there, and then it will exit the loop. But if the ID, that staff ID, is not found, then you should have this message saying that no matching record found, VB exclamation error. So basically that is that. Let's move on to update. It's going to be very simple. So with the updation, we just grab that from here. Updation. So updation is just like adding. Now we check to make sure that we are adding to the right ID. So take note of that. So Control C to copy this. Control C to copy this. And then let's come back here. And then double click on this. Okay. And then here, paste this. Now let's pass a comment here. So let's call this updates. Perfect. So you know what we are actually doing from here. So I don't want to talk about it. And here the last row. So here we are comparing. Okay. We just define the variable, that is the I, and then the ID as well. And know the ID we are going to use to compare. Before you update a particular record, you should know that this record is for this type of ID that I'm updating. So that is what is happening here. So we are doing the comparison to compare the ID to the ID stored inside the search box. Once the ID matches, whatever changes we do inside the text box should be able to send back towards the worksheet. So whatever changes we do inside the text box from here, either text box 1 or 2 or 3, replace that one to the already existing one. If there is a change in image, replace that one to already existing image, and then give us a success message saying message box, that is record updated successfully, and then call CMD reset, clear the form, just close and open to clear the form, and then it should be good to go. So let's run that and see. So let's enter the, let me just copy the staff ID from here, Control C to copy this. Let's run this and then paste it, Control V to paste and search. So now that we have just set this, so we would want to change something. Maybe the email address is not at home but at yahoo.com. Then once we are done, click on update. So it's a record updated successfully. So now if we should just change the search again, so you can see at yahoo.com. We can change the image and then update, and then it should work again. So let's change to this image and then click on update. So once you click on update, if you should search again, the new image should pop up now. Search, and then you have that up and running, meaning your form is working perfectly. That is that. So now let's move on to the next one. That is the last one. That is delete. The delete is going to be very simple too. Let's confirm that. Let's grab the delete here. There we go. The delete, let's grab that from here. Control C to copy this, and then double click to open this. We have the sub here. There we go. Here, there is it. And Control V to paste. So here, yes. And then we just go for delete. Perfect. There we go. So here we are just setting it to the sheet on which we want the action to be taken. That is a data sheet. Here we want to check the last row without data, that is an empty row. Here we are checking this ID and compare, and we know the ID that we are using is in the 5th column, that is the staff ID. So here this line is doing the comparison of the ID with the ID we just entered inside the search box, that is the text box 9. Once there is match, then we want to delete that row. Before you delete, you search the data first. Before you update, you search the data first. That is why we always do the comparison, to make sure that the deletion you are doing based on the ID, you are deleting the right record. The updation you are doing based on the ID, you are updating the right records in the database. So that is what we are talking about there. So with that, let's run this again to compare, to check. So let's add more data. So do Cynthia, so that we can work with more data. Female, date of birth, staff ID, and then registered number here, email address, edu78@gmail.com, and then phone number, .com, and then the phone number here. Perfect. Then we add photo. Then we get this one, and then we save. We add another one again. Then the name is Taju Chop. Then we come to gender, that is male. Then date of birth, we grab that here, generate the staff ID. The registered number, we do that. Maybe Mitaju 32 at yahoo.com, and then the phone number is here. Mitaju, then add photo. Then grab this one from Mitaju, then we save. So now let's grab any of the staff ID. So let's grab this one. So let's go to the user form here, run it, and then let's click here, then search for it, and we are able to return this person, Edu Cynthia. And then let's say we would want to delete Cynthia, so we can just delete Cynthia from the database. So now if we should Control V to paste Cynthia's ID and search again, so you can see it says record not found. So you can see that the data entry form is actually working perfectly as expected. So please, you can leave the comments for me in the comment section below. Let me know your thoughts about this particular data entry form. What are some of the features you want added? Meanwhile, for now, we are done with this section as well. In the next section, we're going to talk about the list box, how we can add list box, create name range, and show how we can hide and then show our workbook. And that brings us to the end of this particular session. So with this, we end this one here. Please don't forget to subscribe to the channel. Press the bell icon so that you get notified anytime we upload new tutorial. Till our next lesson, thank you and bye.